and good morning, everyone. Jenny and I have been kind of preparing for this along with John and Gary, and we're going to kind of do this kind of in an interview format. Jenny was one of the first businesses that I kind of met when the pandemic hit, and she's really done some cool things and really has kind of embraced the pandemic from the standpoint to do some changes. So Jenny, welcome to 1 Million Cups. Thanks for being here. You bet.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start out. There's the history behind the Circle Inn, and if everybody doesn't know, maybe you can tell everybody where the Circle Inn is located and give us a little bit of background as far as the history behind it and also how you got involved in the business.
Sure. Yeah, the Circle Inn is currently located 232 Belgrade Avenue in Lower North Mankato. It was originally where the highway and river, when it was rerouted, so it's technically across the bridge now, if you will, and moved to its current location in the mid-50s. I started working there in 2008. I have been in the service industry basically since I was able to work. I had worked at Junkers Bar and Grill, which used to be up on Commerce, and they were closing. And I hung out at the Circle, and it was one of those, ironically, some of the staff was asking me if I wanted to work there. And I was like, I don't want to work where I like to hang out and, kind of brush it off. And then come to find out that Tom also was like, well, we should hire some of our customers because then you lose your customers that way. But obviously it all worked out. So started working there in 2008. I became the manager in 2013. And then Tom and John, the brothers that owned it, we had been back and forth for honestly, it was probably 5 years, and then really seriously talking about it for 2 to 3 years, about them wanting to sell and for myself to take over. And so I bought it in January of 2019. So I'm a year and a half in. So it's been quite the ride ever since.
Great. So for those that really don't know, give us a little bit of idea as far as what the Circle Inn is.
Okay, so the Circle Inn, I don't just say this because I own it, but it's really kind of this iconic neighborhood bar. It's a huge piece of North Mankato. It's very community driven. Ever since the start, the owners have been very involved in the community. And it's just it's that neighborhood cheers bar. So I'm very honored to continue the legacy of it.
Okay. Let's kind of go back a few months ago, which is probably the week of between March 13th and March 20th when the pandemic occurred. Give me an idea as far as what, you're among entrepreneurs, you're among people who support entrepreneurs, so you can be as bold and as truthful as possible. Give us an idea as far as what happened that week for you and what did you do?
Yeah, it was crazy. Honestly, my husband and I talk about this a lot. It was kind of, looking back, it's like Twilight Zone. So March itself was going really well. It was an amazing month leading up. And I felt like after February, I was kind of getting into this routine. We were settling. I kind of was getting comfortable, and like I kind of slowly was. So let's just explain this. The weekend before St. Patrick's Day, so Jacob, my husband, is on the North Mankato Fire Department, and we were supposed to have a state fire conference up in Duluth that weekend. And I really hadn't been able to leave town for more than 24 hours since I had taken over. So we were very excited about this. We were treating it as a vacation. The wives get to go with, they have to sit in class all day and we can hang out and whatever. So we were very, very excited about it. And obviously leading up to it, you're kind of hearing bits and pieces about stuff, you know, happening, you know, on the West Coast and whatnot, but it really wasn't fully being, you know, a big deal then. But the conference did get canceled, and us and this other firefighter wife and husband, we were just like, you know what, we still just want to get away. And we ended up going to Northfield. And while we were there, it was starting to be said, okay, things are really starting to get serious. She was texting a friend of hers that was in Italy, and she's like, you guys, it's coming for you guys. It's going to get really, really bad. And we were at this VFW. It was packed. You know, I was keeping up with my staff. It was a really busy weekend at the bar, everything. I mean, it just was like, is this really gonna happen or what? You know, it was crazy. Then that Sunday when we were driving home, getting emails that school might be canceled, and it was just like, what? Like, it just all of a sudden was becoming very, very serious. Yeah, and then that Monday night, finding out that bars and restaurants were going to be shut down at 5 o'clock on St. Patty's, and of course, you've got people celebrating, and the place is full, and it's one of those like, are we really kicking all these people out? You know, and then yeah, everything changed, and
Did you kick all those people out at 5 o'clock?
We had to. Yeah, we got
Okay.
them out about 5:30, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that night I actually had Nate Boots. He was scheduled to play at the Circle that night, and so we had the bar closed, and him and his kids kind of did a live feed thing, just like celebrate at home. And then that next morning, it was just waking up to, wow, this is Ellie's home now. We are in another world, and it's been day by day since then.
So how did that change your business, and what did you do different during the stay-at-home order? As far as, I mean, did you keep your doors open? Did you reopen gradually? What have you been doing?
So on the 17th, we were told to shut down. The nice thing is that I do have a on-sale liquor license. So up until the complete shutdown, where it was, you know, essential, non-essential businesses, we were able to do basically curbside, or made a little lobby right inside of our establishment, and we were selling off sale and frozen pizzas. Basically that, you know, again, I was a year and a half in. I was very aggressive in the first year and completely bought the business, and now I'm just making payments on the building. So, I mean, in hindsight, now I'm just very glad that I don't have these huge other payments and was aggressive then. But financially, I wasn't, you know, I'm brand new. I'm not sitting with a ton of money in the bank, or had been in this, you know, for years and years on end. So things weren't exactly great at that moment financially. And so the saving grace, truthfully, was selling all this inventory. And I mean, I had people coming in towards those last couple days, and my cooler's sitting there, and they're like, okay, I'll take one of those and this and that, and making makeshift, you know, 6-packs. And people, that was when truly people thought the world was ending. And I had people buying cases of wine, and just, you know, but that, you know, we sold enough that it kept us steady and able to pay bills until things like the North Mankato City loan came out and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was a good way to get rid of all of this inventory, and a lot of which has an expiration date on it, because at that time we really only thought that it was going to be 2 weeks being closed, and now
Sure.
look at us, you know.
Right.
And I'm still not fully open. So yeah, we had that. It was about a month of being 100% completely closed, and at that point I was still considered non-essential. It's this gray area because I'm not technically a restaurant, and I'm not technically a liquor store, but I have that off-sale license. And so
Okay.
right before they opened things up a little bit more, saying that restaurants could sell, you know, a bottle of wine, or,
Yep.
you know, whatever. that I started doing this 1 week sale or collaborating with a local chef. We were doing hot dishes where they pick that up and then, throw in a bottle of wine as a package deal. But then once I was able to do these weekly sales and advertised it in a way that, hey, let me know what you want. So then I'm pre-ordering, or we're doing pre-orders. So I'm not ramping up my inventory by tens of thousands of dollars and sitting on that and hoping that it sells. I'm instead getting what the customers are wanting, and it's kind of guaranteed that it's going to sell because they pre-ordered. So kind of looked at everything that I had. We've been doing package deals, and then I go through Hermel. Like I said, I don't have a restaurant, so just selling frozen pizzas. They had this big pretzel that we were considering selling when we were open, but it takes up a lot of space.
Sure.
But during this time, that's kind of not a factor now because I'm not using the space for other things. And so those have been selling really good. And
Okay.
technically I could now be open as of Monday, but with my, with us just being a bar, my customers are very blue collar workers. They like getting done with work and coming in and having a beer or two or whatever. When it's a restaurant setting and you have that kind of automatic turnover where they're coming in, they're eating, and then they're going, I just think this situation works a lot better in that case, whereas opposed to, I don't want a city worker getting done like yesterday, prime example, sweating, just wanting to come in and have a beer, and I have to say, I'm sorry, you didn't make a reservation, and like that just, I don't want to start off on a bad foot. I want everyone back and for it to be a fun time again.
Sure. I think what we're going to do is, due to time interests, maybe one last question for me, and if you could just summarize a little bit more, and then we're going to open up to just the community at large, because we're on a time constraints here. How do you think the pandemic's changed your business?
Well, drastically. One of the questions that you guys had asked was, the percentage, and I kind of did some random figures, and it's, we're down 90% for business.
How many percent?
90.
90. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with that said, I'm not having to buy tons of inventory and sit on it. That's one of your biggest in my industry, is sitting on all this inventory. And so these weekly sales, and along with, getting a loan and everything else, I've been able to maintain and keep paying my bills and don't have all this built up. But it's definitely, and moving forward, it's going to affect things. We have to do whole new protocols. And I do think that people are going to be hesitant for a while to go to establishments.
Okay. I think we'll go ahead and open up for questions, Yvonne. I think Ryan has his hand raised. Ryan, how do you want to do this, Yvonne? You want them to unmute, or how do you want to go about this?
Yeah, you can call on them and they can unmute themselves.
All right, Ryan?
Yes, I was going to ask, based on some of the things that you've done now and some of the things that you've learned, once we get to a point where we don't need to be concerned about restrictions, we don't need to be concerned about social distancing, truly back to normal, is there anything that you've learned in these last couple of months that you think will make a permanent change to the way that you conduct business?
Yes. Moving forward, I am worried that we might get shut down again this winter. And so I've just been slowly starting to, and obviously this is smart anyways, but to set money aside. When we do open back up, we're not going to carry everything that we did at that time. I mean, we had such a variety of things, which is great, but that's also expensive. And just to kind of simplify things until things are a little more stable. And cleaning wise, I mean, that is something, if somebody's sick, they shouldn't be coming to work. And, sanitizing things, I got a sprayer to spray down at night. And, I think everybody's going to look differently in the future on you know what, if you're hacking all over the place or sneezing all over the place, you can't be in work. You need to be home and resting because everybody else then gets sick. And that's just how, you know, people need money. And so I don't know, we might have to figure out some sort of still being able to pay people when they're not at work so that they aren't hiding symptoms, or not even just with COVID-19, but just in general. So.
John, did you have a question? Constantine?
Sure. You know, I've known Jeni for a few years. I remember Latchkey way back at Roosevelt.
Very long time.
Good times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious about your being a lifelong resident of the community. How have you seen, you know, the community change, and prior to COVID, I guess. And once you became a business owner, how did your view of the community kind of change?
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I and anyone that's grown up here knows, I mean, I moved away for a hot minute for 2 years and lived in Montana. And, you know, you just talk with other classmates that there's just truly nowhere else like Minnesota, and there's nowhere else like Mankato, North Mankato. It's just got this very unique community feel about it. And people are just truly supportive. And that's, you know, when I took over as a business owner and during the whole process, I mean, I just felt this like immense amount of just cheerleaders, of people coming out of the woodwork, not even ones that you would necessarily think would be so supportive, and that have been during this whole entire time. And there's kind of this old saying, you learn who your true friends are, who your true supporters are when you own a business, when they truly want everything best for you, and they're not trying to get a deal or trying to, oh, I know them because they own a business. The ones that are truly supportive. And I just think, you know, I've always been, and the circle's always been very about community. And I think that it goes back and forth, you know, you give back and people are going to support you. And it's been immense. And during this whole time, I mean, people always knew to shop local, but now I think more than ever, people are being extremely aware of it and understanding that it isn't just about purchasing, but it's about support and sharing posts and word of mouth. I think it's been huge. And I think a lot of businesses during these really hard times, that's helped us, just knowing that so many people have your back.
Well, I just wanted to add that, you know, your hustle in your year and a half at the Circle Inn has been really impressive. I've seen you on so many, I mean, just with COVID, I've seen you on every single Zoom meeting that, you know, I've been participating in, and your, you know, leadership with business on Belgrade has been fantastic. So thanks for being a part of the community and, you know, giving up on Montana.
Thank you.
Oh, well, that's probably has an inside story to it, but we won't go there. Nancy Goodwin, do you have a question?
No, she actually answered it in the second half of her
Okay,
content, Mike, but thank you.
no problem. Yvonne, did you have anything that you want to ask?
I did. What marketing tools are you using to let people know what you're offering now?
Facebook. I mean, it has been huge, and something that I've been meaning to, and I kind of miss this little niche of never was super tech savvy, and then just my generation where you either really went with it or didn't, and I kind of didn't. So eventually I want to get into the Instagram. I've gone to conferences about marketing and everything, and that's, you know, the next to keep up with, you know, the trends. But no, Facebook and I mean, yeah, that's really right now all I've got. So, oh, and radio has also definitely helped. So.
Okay. And I'll call on Gary Schott. Gary, you had the final question for Jeni?
Yes, Jenny. So I think going through all this transition, what else can the community do for you? You've mentioned a couple things, but maybe hit the one or two things that you think would be most helpful for you as a small business Circle Inn.
So currently, and I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live today for the business. I think unless you're like in this world, I don't think people fully listen or get what the guidelines are right now and why maybe certain businesses are holding off. And so I've gotten a lot of support about my decision to hold off for just a little bit to open up. But then there's the other, well, this person's doing that or da, 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 da. And it's like, but every business is different. And so I think it's just to fully understand that, to be patient with businesses and to understand that we're all looking longevity wise, that you want to do it smart and that not everything might be available right out the bat. And the guidelines are hard and, I've heard, people say like, it's all going to cost a lot more money and it's going to take more time and people just need to be patient because this is all brand new for all of us. And we know that people are excited to get back out there and to enjoy these businesses again. So that's one thing. And I'm not even open right now that I just want to reiterate to people is like, when you go to these places, just be patient and understanding and that they're trying to do the best that they can given the situation.
Okay, I probably just have one last question. Any idea yet on when a reopening might occur? Are you hearing anything from your associations?
So my fear over the weekend, or is that this, I can't even, my days are getting off. Yeah, this past weekend, with the rioting and looting, that obviously I was like, okay, are we going to take another step back? Because in this industry, we're the first ones that are going to get shut back down again. And so I'm still hopeful it's only going to be a couple more weeks that things are loosened up a little bit more. So I'm hoping the week of the 20th-ish, hopefully.
Okay.
So.
All right, great. All right. And I noticed that in other states, it's usually at 25 or 50% capacity. So I'm sure that that's probably how it's going to be here as well. But thank you, Jenny, for joining us today. And I really appreciate you being a part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.